God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege, and this is the Protege program. It feels like it's been a while since I recorded a video. I guess I'm just tired today. It's been quite a day, but I hope that you enjoy this one. I hope you'll leave a like, maybe subscribe, and leave a comment down below. What I want to talk about in today's video is what John Oliver decided to talk about on September the 24th. He talked about corporate consolidation. I think this is an interesting issue. I think it's one that the left and the right can somewhat unify behind, but when you're talking about unity with the left, you must be careful about stepping off too deep into the swamp. So, there's a lot that was said in John Oliver's video that is really unnecessary to talk about. The biggest thing that I think needs to be addressed is his opening statement of sorts. I'll just read it off here. It can feel like we're in a golden age of small business startups, but that isn't actually the case. The rate at which new businesses are being created has actually been steadily falling since the 70s. And I would agree, and I would argue that one of the reasons for that is that big businesses have been getting even bigger. So that's his full statement, or that's his thesis for the video. And by the time you get to the end, you know, he makes that statement. He goes a long way through demonstrating how bad big businesses are, and doesn't offer a lot of evidence to the fact that consolidation is crowding out small businesses. And then when he gets to the end of the video, he says the solution is more government. The solution to these big businesses getting bigger and beating out small business is to make the government bigger. The solution to one entity getting too big is to make another entity bigger. As ironic as that sounds. I would agree that big businesses getting bigger does have a crowding out effect on small businesses. I don't think anybody would argue that that is not the case. But nothing is happening in a vacuum. Remember I said that a few days ago with the Billy Kimmel video. Nothing happens in a vacuum. If big businesses are getting bigger, they're not just getting bigger by themselves and the only effect is not on small businesses. They're having an effect on the economy. They're having an effect on their own products. They're having an effect on government for sure. And so I want to look at what government could possibly be doing that could be influencing these changes in businesses. So, first of all, we need to look at the changes, the mergers and acquisitions. So, John Oliver said that mergers and acquisitions have been going up over time, and that is true. Since 2009, mergers and acquisitions, the number per year, have been going up. That second to last bar there is 2017 year to date. And as you can see, the projected number of mergers and acquisitions for 2017 is to be higher than every year from 2009 onward. But what else has been going on besides just mergers and acquisitions that could be influencing the small business startup rate going down? Well, as it turns out, the pages of code of federal regulations on businesses has not gone down. There is, you can see from this chart, there's a few places where the number of pages goes up and it dips a little bit, and it goes back up, dips a little bit. That's kind of natural for any system over time, is there's going to be a few dips as progress goes up. But there's never been a substantial period of decreasing in regulations, except for right here for some reason, from about 2005 until 2009, there was a heavy drop in regulation from 2004 to 2005 for some reason. I'm not sure what that reason is, but you'll notice the upward trajectory didn't actually stop. You know, we didn't pick up, or rather, when the number of regulations increased, the pages of regulations increased in 2011, I think that is, we just picked up where we left off. It was as if no time had elapsed between 2011 and 2005. If you took out all the years where there are fewer regulations and put them together, the chart looks exactly the same. It looks like nothing is missing. So I was curious to how many pounds this 180,000 pages of regulations would be. It turns out it's 3.6 tons. And the cost of these 3.6 tons of regulation has been crippling on small businesses. In fact, strangely enough, when it comes to the cost of these regulations on small businesses, it's actually more on a smaller business than it is on a larger business. Now you can see from this report, it's been broken out in manufacturing and all businesses. But bigger businesses, but it costs more for small businesses to keep up with regulations than it does for big businesses. And this is across all different types of regulations. You can see that with one exception, and that is economic regulations on small businesses. With that exception alone, small business spends more money in compliance with federal regulation than does any other size business. This is backwards in John Oliver's world. In John Oliver's world, we crack down on big businesses, we make big businesses pay the price for being big, and we help small businesses to get big so that we can charge them more money. Instead, the world we live in charges small businesses more for existing than it does for big businesses. This is insane to me. This makes no sense. I'm sure that if John Oliver knew this information, he would be shouting about how government needs to be smaller so that small businesses can grow. And these tables are backwards. We need to be charging big businesses more for existing than small businesses. I wouldn't necessarily argue that we should do that, but this is the world we live in. This is how backwards our government has gotten regulation. Now, I don't have a lot more images to show you as we move forward with this video, but I do want to talk about some of the industries that John talks about in his video as examples of how evil big, huge businesses are. And he talks about the airline industry, and he mentions the fact that there are something like 4 major airlines in the United States of America. He talks about how these airlines, because they are so few and so large, that they've been able to increase specific fees on the consumer so that they rake in more of a profit. He uses one graph that is particularly shocking, where he talks about airline baggage fees and how baggage fees have gone from cumulatively $500,000 across all airline passengers in the first time a baggage fee was implemented to $5 billion in today's standards. Now, obviously, we find that outrageous. $5 billion for baggage fees. Why would anybody pay baggage fees when you can fly Southwest Airlines and pay $0 for your baggage? Well, as it turns out, some of those airlines, or the big airlines, have been receiving of federal dollars in the past. Not only that, but in Obama's deficit plan a few years back, this is from 2011, there were some fees that were implemented that were explicitly given from the federal government to be placed on the consumer. According to the administration from 2011, the administration argues that those who use the air travel system, the consumers, they say airlines and passengers, but those who use the air travel system are passengers, should pay for airline security. And the airlines were trying to say we shouldn't have to pay these fees. There was going to be a passenger security fee of $15 per round trip that each individual is going to have to be paid. This is going to be directly added to your airline ticket. And the airline itself was theoretically going to pay a surcharge of $100 a flight for air traffic control. Now this translates into $100 per flight per passenger, because the airline's not going to pay that fee. They're going to forward that on to the passenger. That's just how business works. And both of the airline associations, the Air Transport Association for the larger airlines and the Regional Airline Association for smaller airlines, said that this was going to hurt the airline industry, this fee was. And this was a fee from the federal government, not from the airlines, that was imposed on passengers. So again, this is federal government making the problem, not big businesses. The other thing that John Oliver talked about in his video was the banking industry. He mentioned if you don't like big banks, you probably don't like one of these 4 banks. There's 4 big banks: JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citi, and Bank of America, all of which were bailed out in 2008 as part of the bank bailout package. That was, I kind of think that that's where the term too big to fail came from, but maybe it came before that. But how is a small bank supposed to compete with a bank that gets billions of dollars in federal money for failing? It's not like the bank was given a bunch of money for being a good bank. These banks were given billions of taxpayer dollars for failing, for being bad at being a bank. They were given a bunch of money. This is backwards. This is backwards thinking. This is big government thinking, and John Oliver's solution is more big government. What John Oliver doesn't mention as part of this video about corporate consolidation, he sort of does, but not really, is the cellular carrier industry. Now, I'm not old enough to remember the days when AT&T was the one and only telephone provider. I did read one article that went into a lot of detail talking about the breakup of the AT&T monopoly into the many telephone carriers. And I heard from one person how there used to be a duopoly of AT&T and Verizon, where packages were very expensive and Sprint was a joke and there were no unlimited packages. But T-Mobile comes onto the scene. Sprint gains some more muscle in the cellular carrier community, and all of a sudden unlimited packages are back. Long distance calling is now not an issue. You used to have to pay exorbitant fees for long distance calling. Now it's basically free for long distance calling. Text messaging, you had to pay for text messaging bundles. I can remember that. I can remember my parents telling me, you're not allowed to text more than this number of times. That's sending and receiving. Now everybody has unlimited texting. It's not an issue. Now I can remember my parents talking about having a certain number of minutes that you were allowed to call. I remember seeing the AT&T rollover minutes commercials. Now everybody has unlimited minutes. There's no limited minutes on any carriers, and it's all thanks to not the government, but competition. The question really here is, do you believe government can fix the problem or not? I saw a story recently, and maybe I'll go dig it up and do a video on it, but it was a video, or rather a story from the left, talking about how government causes the problems and then goes to try and fix the problem they created. And it's thinking of people like John Oliver, who maybe don't understand the fact that government has created the big bank, what's the word for it? Oligopoly. The fact that it's a few enormous banks that are ruling the banking industry. It's big government that has created that situation. It's big government that has created the 4 airlines owning the airline industry. It is not big government that has created the cellular carrier culture that we live in, where packages have improved over time. You're having to buy more things than you can possibly use. Like, you can never use an unlimited talking minutes plan to the point where it's worth what you paid for it. But but it's an improvement in the plan, and the costs, from what I understand, have gone down for these lines. Cellular carriers are constantly competing with each other to get different carriers' users, offering to pay your cancellation fees, offering you lower monthly premiums for your package deals, doing all kinds of things to compete with each other. Another industry that I'm kind of surprised John Oliver didn't mention, because millennials hate it so much, telecom communities, the cable companies, the internet companies. Millennials hate cable and internet companies because there are so few of them that they totally control what the entire marketplace looks like when it comes to cable and internet. And it's all because there's not enough competition. And I hope that I've demonstrated that it's because of crippling government regulation on small businesses that big businesses have gotten bigger, to the point where they own where a few businesses own entire industries. And I hope that I've been able to communicate to you that the moral of the story is that government needs to get off the backs of these small businesses. Maybe government does need to be a little bit more heavy-handed with the antitrust law, but most importantly, government needs to stop bailing out businesses, stop giving billions of dollars to businesses for being bad at being a business. That is the only way that we're going to be able to truly promote competition, is by giving small businesses an avenue into the competition, and by telling big businesses, you're going to have to operate as if when you fail, that's it. You all lose. We're going to have to start telling these big businesses that when you fail, no one is coming to help you. That's the only way we're going to be able to tell businesses that they need to cater to their customers. I think that's going to do it for this video. That's all of the comments that I have notes on that I wanted to make. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like, maybe even subscribe to support this content. Again, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening and a fantastic day tomorrow. Good night and God bless.